You have arrived to the Plunge Into Prosperity podcast, where sacred wisdom meets regenerative wealth. I'm your host, Brandi Kolosky of Sacral Capital. Now let's plunge in. Welcome back to Plunge Into Prosperity. Can you believe it, everyone? Episode 27. I'm Brandi Kolosky, and today's conversation is something I think about constantly. Mind, body, spirit is always active in my day-to-day life. And what it actually looks like to build a health company from inside your own family. This is where we're going to find all those details out about today. My guest is Tessa Santarpia, founder and CEO of Santaia, a neuroscience-based wellness platform built to help people understand and retrain the patterns behind stress, burnout, and performance blocks using everything from EEG-based brain mapping to heart rate variability and sleep data. It's HIPAA-compliant, built to work alongside clinicians rather than replace them, and grounded in one idea that earlier insight into your own patterns changes the trajectory of your health. Tessa holds a Master of Health Administration from Columbia University Mailman Public School of Health, and she didn't build this company alone. She built it with her own mother, a board-certified neuropsychologist, and her sister, an engineer. A mother and two daughters, one company. Please welcome Tessa. I'm so honored to have you.
Thanks for having me, Brandi. I'm excited for this.
Yes, very much so. So for you, I'm sure if you've listened to a few of the podcasts, and for those listeners that are new here, Tessa, tell them why they should continue listening to this particular episode of Plunge into Prosperity.
So, we're going to talk a little bit about the scarcity mindset and how to translate that into a prosperous mindset. You know, money is really at the root of the nervous system, and there are ways and tools to work with that at that level.
You're hitting my everyday conversation on the spot. I've been working with a healer on trust with money, trust with men, and trust with money and men. And then also many, many years ago, my grandmother put me in meditation school and to start restructuring the synapses associated with fear. I always try and teach people that like the analogy of like that money is energy too. So in that sense, I'm excited to deep dive into that. So how did you first discover your own personal definition of what true prosperity means to you? And how are you actively embodying that today and stewarding it, that vision in your life and career, personal and career?
Yeah. So, for me, I realized very early on in my work that money is tied so deeply to safety and sense of self worth. I had grown up in a family where, the scarcity mindset was very prevalent. I lived with my grandparents who were born during the Great Depression. And, my parents, when they divorced, the only thing they ever really thought about was money. So it's very tied deep in my family lineage and also deep in my upbringing patterns. So when I really started realizing, not only is money a transition into feeling more safe in my own body and in my environment, but it's also the idea of freedom. So being able to have the experiences and the time and, all of these things that money brings. And when I kind of took the focus off the money, it made it easier to really step into that more prosperous
Mm,
mindset.
couldn't agree with you more. I am constantly just living in that embodiment and knowing that I am moving through my businesses and my personal life to the highest good in general. And it's hard to continue tapping into that because there are some little moments that'll start to creep up. I can tell right away, and I'll either feel it in the body or I'll hear that little subconscious voice that's only really trying to protect you, but it doesn't know that it's not a good protection. And I'll be like, nope, what are you doing here? Get out of here. And but then I'll ask myself, why is that? And it's just really old patterns and just recognizing that really it's almost nothing more than that. Yeah.
Exactly. So true.
Mhm. Yeah,
And I
continue. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, realizing not only that safety within those patterns, but it's tied to our sense of belonging, our identity, our like future certainty, and how comfortable we are navigating that. So these patterns, the word pattern just seems like, okay, it's something I can easily fix and just become aware of. But these are like deep seated ways that your body responds to things around you. And
Yeah.
a lot of these money beliefs were formed as young as 7 years old. And they get really hardwired there because that's when the brain is going through so many rapid changes. And
Mm-hmm.
as a child, you're very dependent on the outside world. So you're looking to your caregivers and your environment to give you a sense of how to relate to yourself. So, I don't think we as a society have really even can even really comprehend just how pivotal those years are and
Mm-hmm.
how we should be giving support, in schools or through healthcare institutions just to help rationalize what's going on with a lot of these.
Yeah, I love reading like medical white papers or just research papers or just learning about psychology to neuroscience to the body, and you name it. I was also an athlete, so and I many a long time ago read that from 0 to 7 years old is the download phase, and 7 to 14 is the application phase as far as like the developmental goes, and the experiences you're having around. And then also, what, the past 5, maybe 8 years, the study of epigenetics and seeing the trauma imprinted from 6 to 7 generations back, or 3 to 6 generations back, can be seen in our genetics. And so most of our patterns or triggers or little experiences are not always ours.
Absolutely. One of the studies that I love to tell my clients most is that we can inherit fear and that can be passed down multiple generations. So they took a group of rats and they gave them a shock and administered a smell, a harmless smell. And then so the rats learned to associate that smell with that fear. And then when they had offspring, even 2 to 3 generations prior, they would administer the smell without the shock, and the rats would
Mm-hmm.
react in that fear based way.
Mm-hmm.
So much of what we're carrying is not ours, which is so frustrating. But I think it's also really helpful to keep in mind that especially if you're like the first gen in in your family to really start stepping into this level of wealth, or even the second, like you are healing those family wounds and those
Mm-hmm.
generational traumas, just being able to step into a new mind body state.
Mm-hmm. I also have noticed because I've dated Billy sons, and then I've been around. I was born in a trailer. I was born with, not into wealth. And I noticed that there's one constant, no matter how wealthy you are or where you are in the level of, protection and safety and security and money, is it's fear of money, fear of having it, fear of keeping it, fear of losing it, fear of knowing what to do with it. Every human on earth. Yeah. It's, we all have that
Everyone.
same fear. Yeah. Same one.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's such a good point in that even successes, like you can have a lot of success, but that fear only sometimes upgrades. So now you're having the fear of keeping that success, the fear of stepping
Mm-hmm.
into a new visible role. There's so much. So you never really escape the fear. I think it's really about changing your relationship to it and learning to coexist with it
Yes, ma'am.
and move forward.
Agree. So, and you didn't arrive at this as a tech founder first. You came up through the operational side of healthcare.
Yeah, so my background is in healthcare management, so working with different physician practices, clinical research, and very early on in my career, I started to question the system. I personally think it's just very geared towards sick care, as in we wait to intervene too late when some of the symptoms and dysregulation worsens or gets too severe that we have to intervene with medication and surgery and all
Yeah.
these things. But the fact is, there's very subtle dysregulation that is visible very early on. And we're just not taught to be in partnership with our bodies. So we kind of just dismiss it as like,
Yes.
oh, it's low grade anxiety, low grade depression. Oh, you're just having some stomach problems. When really, those are the first signs of your system starting to gear up and saying, hey, we need to look at something here. Like something needs to be addressed. You're living out of alignment. And just like the way that we humans live right now, like constantly glued to our phones, like absorbing so much information, very sedentary. All of that is the body's way of saying something's got to give.
So you were just sharing with us where you came up from your operational side. And so before Santaia existed, you were doing the work of healthcare from the inside, clinical research, like you said, patient facing roles, eventually an MHA from Columbia. What were those years actually teaching you about how the systems treat stress and burnout? And I know you were just sharing that you know, you were seeing how the system was broken, right? Or needed healing or needed growth and evolution. Was there specific moments that happened? Like a one that really, hit the switch, so to say?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of physician offices are geared towards, 15 to 20-minute visits per patient. That's just the way it's not, the physician at all. It's literally the way it's reimbursed. And you have to consistently see so many patients in a day to even make those reimbursements and those salaries. So the way that it's geared, you can't do a lot of holistic inventory within 15 minutes.
Mm-mm.
You have to go through diet, like inputs of, caffeine, alcohol, things that are like affecting the body, and then also mood, how one lives their life. That takes longer than those 15 minutes.
Oh my
So
gosh, yes.
even when, patients would say, "Yeah, I'm having this, like, low-grade issue," it's nothing severe enough to diagnose yet. So it often just gets documented and watched, but there are so many interventions that could be made at that stage so that it doesn't actually go into a full-blown chronic dysregulation or severe symptom reaction. So witnessing that and noticing that patients want help, they don't know where to get it, and the physician just doesn't have time to work with each of these patients in that way,
Mm-hmm.
was really what kinda woke me up to, okay, we need, like, to supplement the system with something instead of just going directly at the physician level.
And yeah, that hits it for sure. I know that even when I'm doing my own research on my own personal self, I have my food as medicine and healthcare certification, healing with nutrition, herbalism, energy healing. Like I don't do it for a living, but I got these certifications to keep up with my own, growth and healing whenever it's needed. And I've been very fascinated on different intuitive patterns in the body, right? So intuitive mean being able to communicate to your body or listen to it, so to say, and communicate that. And it's interesting how you're looking into understanding people better and retraining the patterns behind stress or burnout or performance blocks or even like athletes and their body using everything from you said EEG-based brain mapping to heart rate variability and sleep data. Can you dive deeper into how that's going? Because and I want to give a shout out to one of our sacral sister investors. We're also investing her in her company. It's called Intuitive Human. And she's also wanting to partner with companies and doctors and experts such as yourself and your family, where you take the brain, heart, and then she wants to create a gut scan so that it adds all of that data together because the gut has the most, nerves. So I
Absolutely.
would love to dive into that right now because I told her to listen in. So yeah.
Awesome, yeah,
Her
I'd
name
love
is
to talk
Crystal.
more. Hi, Crystal. Yeah, that's awesome, and especially going in that area of gut as well because so much of our serotonin and happy hormone is stored in the gut. So people don't realize that what you're eating has such a big impact on your mental state, ability to focus, brain fog, things like that. So very cool. What we do is something similar in the sense of we use brain mapping, optional digital health wearables, and behavior intakes to kind of map the person and get a baseline of where they're starting at. So that gives us some really objective and subjective data into this is the way this person thinks, functions, and lives their life. So a very like holistic kind of approach to this. We'll look at labs, we'll look at supplements, we really just want to get a whole picture of what's going on. And then we work typically 8 weeks because that's kind of the minimum amount of time to actually make rewiring structural changes in the brain. But
Wow.
we'll go 8 to 12 if needed. And that's really a rewiring course that involves online digital learning, potentially neurofeedback, which is a way to actively train the brain every day, and then meeting with our team as well. But really, that's broken down into two sections. I like to call it nervous system literacy. So, education about how your nervous system works is so powerful. It sounds like
It is
you've done so much of your own
a
research
lot.
that.
And where they another term that they've been using lately is emotional hygiene or energetic hygiene.
Yes, yes. It's so needed. That's the other thing. We keep the focus so much on mental health, but emotional health is so important, and understanding the differences, how they relate is key. Like, I always have
Mhm.
clients have these crazy aha moments, just being like, "I never realized that this fundamental way my body works could have such a big impact on the way I view the world and live my life." So, the education piece in my mind is so important. And that's, a lot of what I from the healthcare system is like we need that literacy. We need to empower people to be a partner in their own healthcare and not just, going to someone else to be told what to do. So that
Mhm.
is huge. And then we pair it with bottom up practices. So breath work, meditation, cognitive flexibility drills, a synergistic approach of really time tested regulation practices, and then modern neuroscience of
Yeah.
really how you rewire the system.
Yeah. I'm always telling people I love spirit and like the woo woo, but then I'm obsessed with data and science, and I just love mixing the spirit and
Yes.
science together. It really it gets me going, and I am so excited to be investing in this space and bringing on women that want to invest in this space with me. So it's pretty awesome. And then you have three women on your team, your mom and you and your sister. And I want to sit here for a second because this part of your story is rare. You didn't just found the company, you founded it with your family and three women at the helm at that, at that helm. So what does it actually look like day to day building a health tech company with your mother as your chief scientific officer? And where does mom end and co-founder begin?
Well, so what's funny is, I mean, my mom has always been a very rare neuropsychologist in the sense of she loves the spiritual and she dives into the energetics of the universe. So she dealt with a lot of pushback from the community
Yeah.
when she was in it. But she was like, you know what? Maybe I just need to stick to the traditional path. This seems to be the way to go. She's young, she's not gonna rock the boat initially, and then she kept seeing patients come to her saying, "You're the 5th, 6th, 10th provider I've seen. I can't get anywhere." And she started realizing, "Okay, there's something wrong here. There is a
I have
different
goosebumps.
approach."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
she really created this amazing approach that blends both, like you said, the science and the spirit, because we are these spiritual electrochemical systems.
Hmm.
What we are at our
And
heart.
what do we reach? A 6 feet diameter as well in our
Yeah,
electromagnetic field? I mean,
yes, and
I know you keep looking surprised about how much knowledge I have.
no, not at all. I'm like, I
I wanted
love
to
talking
no,
this.
but like in a fun way. Like you're just like, yeah, like you're
Yeah,
just speaking to somebody who speaks your language. But I wanted to be a naturopathic doctor like a while before getting into venture capital, after having a business development agency. And so, but there was only two universities that were offering an ND, and you were only allowed to practice in two states. And this was only like 10, 15 years ago. And, now it's grown, of course, thank gosh, but it's, I'm so happy that she finally listened to her sacral.
yes. Listen,
And that's why my company is called Sacral Capital too, because I've been leading with my gut in these
I love
decisions.
that.
So your mom, so keep going. Your mother, moved into finally leaning in to her full F yes.
Finally leaning in, and I'm happy she did that at a point where we started, my sister and I were young enough to start really, like, looking at her like, "Oh, she's living her authentic self." And that
Mm,
was a big lesson as a young adolescent of, like, maybe I can go down these paths because that's what I'm interested in too. That's why I've always been drawn to holistic medicine. There was a period where, I really thought I was gonna go to med school because that was the track that I was supposed to be on. Uh,
mm-hmm.
a lot of different things and intuitions kinda happen to go down,
Yeah.
a slightly more alternative path, but nonetheless. So what's been incredible about working together is that, we've obviously all grown up talking about this vision, not necessarily this exact company, but the vision of how do we reach more people with this approach.
Steward. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Being stewards.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Because really, that's all we're doing is we're just advancing, like you said, teaching others about the neuro literacy, right?
Yep.
And yeah, and all of the above. Yep.
And yeah, and
That's beautiful.
we all play a role, like I love working with different companies in a partnership role because I'm like, you're doing your part in maybe like a slightly different adjacent space.
Mhm.
Or, what you're doing with Sacral Capital. Like, it's just amazing. Like, we're all stewards in this way. And I think us
Mhm.
coming together is what's going to change the dynamic because it's really the power of the people. And we've
Yes.
just been a little brainwashed into thinking that our individual selves are separate and don't have that power. But the more we come
Mm,
together, the more it really is very, very powerful.
I love that. And so with your sister, Nina, she brings an engineering and systems background into neuroscience and wellness company. What does she catch or build that you and your mother like couldn't maybe have gotten to without her? So let's give
Yes.
her a shout out too.
Yeah. So she started in mechanical engineering, and then shifted to get her master's in sustainability. So she's very big on ethical and sustainable design of tech, which has really
Mm.
helped us understand this lens. Because,
I'm also investing in infrastructure, digital infrastructure as well. And so, because everything ends up tying back together, and I'm just so excited for this. I'm excited to dive deeper for sure.
yeah, so
Hmm.
because we do leverage AI, to personalize a lot of our experiences.
Hmm.
That's just something that has to happen when you want to grow and personalize in this way, but we're also very aware at the distrust and the ethical concerns around AI. So she's
Hmm.
really understand what the future of that looks like. You can power AI with renewables. You
Yep.
can make sure it's ethically trained and doesn't go outside the ramifications of what you train it to be. So there are so many ways that we're just not talking enough about. And that's also something we're very powerful or very excited about moving forward those conversations. So she's been really instrumental in that way.
Okay, great. I'm excited to meet her too, and your mother. So we're gonna do some fire off questions here at the end. So just some quick, 4 to 8 word sentences. So where do you want Santai to be in 3 years? And what does success look like to you that isn't just revenue?
Okay, so in 3 years, I envision we have an accessible way to reach hundreds of thousands of people. So really
Mm-hmm.
being able to scale this idea and this holistic approach for the individual consumer. So kind of creating like a health assistant to help
Mm-hmm.
conceptualize a lot of these, as you said, like very far out fields. Like there's a lot of research you have to do to dive into each of them. Being able to have like a starting point is so powerful. And being able to really start to leverage that with schools and different health providers is really what I envision in like that ecosystem.
Love it. Love it.
And I think in terms of what's success that's not financial, it's giving people more presence. So really
Mm-hmm.
being able to be more present in your life. I fall into a lot of overworking patterns when I'm stressed. And the best things for regulation are to just take that walk, go sit by that tree, do some
Ground.
breathing.
Yeah. Take the shoes off.
Yeah, and a lot of us feel like that's just feel good wellness that we do when we're
No.
feeling great, but it's essential. And
It
I
decoagulates the blood. Like,
yeah,
let alone anything else it does good for you. You know,
exactly.
I notice a difference if I have not grounded, put my feet in the earth in 24, 48 hours. I notice a huge difference. Like
Well, yeah.
it's in there. It's wild to me. I don't know how people go now knowing that I do it this much. Like, how are you not putting your feet in the earth? I'm constant. My man is a dentist and a sleep doctor, which I also wanted to introduce you to him because he's been doing a lot of sleep study stuff. And because in dentistry, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but as a sleep doctor, when you're pushing through the birth canal, you're getting naturally adjusted. And so sleep apnea has been seen in those that have been C-section babies. And so, but so he's doing all this sleep data stuff as well, and then helping restructure the facial bones through dentistry, right? But then obviously you're going to need some spiritual work there too, right? From being in the womb trauma. So that's a whole nother thing. Okay, so let's move it on. You are building tools that measure things like nervous system flexibility, stress reactivity. What does your own regulation practice look like day to day? But you just gave us a little bit of a hint, and we're not always perfect. There's always roller coaster days, but let us know. Give us some top 3 things.
Absolutely. So my morning routine is something that I have really tried to stick to at least my top 3. Like you said, it changes day to day, but I always wake up and immediately before my eyes open, I go into a 20-minute breath and meditation. That's because, the brain waves
Same.
are at such a suggestible state when we just wake up. They're in that like alpha frequency mode, and you're able to really connect with source. You can implant new ideas, you can create inspiration within yourself. So
Yeah.
that's a number 1 go-to.
I'll be visiting you
Yes, I can't wait
because
till
I
you
do the
come to
same
LA.
thing. I know. So Crystal, the intuitive human, she's also studying telepathy as well in healing. So this is that's a whole nother topic of like if we were to both be meditating at the same time and if we could, tap into the same journey. But
Yeah.
either way, same for me, meditation, breath work in the morning. I'll pull over, I'll take my phone to put on if I feel like I need a guided one. Some days are different, but that's the only thing I'll look at on my phone. That's it. And then it'll be 10 to 20 minutes. Yep. And then apple cider vinegar, lemon water, and then cayenne pepper and honey or cayenne pepper and monk fruit in my coffee.
We
That's
are
my,
we are literally almost the same in that I do an apple cider vinegar, I don't touch my phone, and then I do some
yeah,
yoga. I love
yeah. Understood. Yep. All right,
so
beautiful.
cool.
Well, let's go ahead and let people know where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find us at Santaia.health, or sorry, www.santaia.health. We're also on all socials, Santaia.health. So to give you a little background on the name, it's a
Yes.
combination of the Sanskrit word for peace, Santi, and then the
Yes.
Latin word for earth, Gaia. So it's grounded harmony. So Santaia.
I love this. Amazing. Amazing. Well, sacral is also a part of Sanskrit as well, and we'll get into that on another episode.
Love
If
that.
someone's been nodding along through this whole conversation, that is where you go and find Tessa here and her family. And, moving forward, there's something in this conversation also I don't want to let pass by quietly. You didn't just build a company, you built it with 2 other women who raised you and shaped you, and bet on all 3 of you for being right. That it's in its own kind is its own prosperity, and that's why you're here on the show today. Thank you for plunging with me. To everyone listening, if this episode moves something in you, share it, leave a review, tag the woman in your life who needs to hear this conversation too, or a man, and come find us at plungeintoprosperity.com and sacralcapital.com. There's so much more waiting for you there. Until the next plunge, have a prosperous day. I'm Brandi Kolosky, founder and GP of Sacral Capital, Sacral Fund, and Sacral Sisters. Till next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for plunging into sacred wisdom and regenerative wealth with us. If your soul and your portfolio just got a glow up, hit subscribe on YouTube, Amazon, Spotify, and Apple. Share it with your crew. Tag us on social and join the movement at plungeintoprosperity.com. I'm Brandi Kolosky. Catch you on the next plunge.